And I pray that today's gathering will inspire us all to carry on her legacy of attentive listening, caring, and healing. A few practical matters. Next door to the parish hall and alongside the building are restrooms. Those closest to us are the most accessible. Immediately following the service, there will be a reception, and we invite you to stick around and continue sharing and celebrating Wendy's life. Stand together, hands together. This is how we stand together, hands together. All who are in favor of, cause the river knows, the river knows where.
Hey, Lon, do me a favor.
And so turn it over, turn it over. This is how we plan to see you. 2 times deeper, 2 times deeper. All who are in favor of, cause the river flows, this is how we plan. So
That's better.
Should have made this font bigger, but here we go. I want to thank you all for being here today to help celebrate and honor the life of Wendy. Each of you offered her a special connection. And Wendy could have got that door shut like that. Each of you offered her a special connection, whether through music or meditation, through yoga, or by greeting her at the checkout stand at the local Trader Joe's. Every person met was held in high regard and made to feel special. Each person mattered. That is the way Wendy wove together this beautiful community that was so important to her. One interaction at a time. Each of you here today represent that sacred bond, and I am grateful for the ways you brought joy and meaning to Wendy's life. I first met Wendy 30 years ago under Vermont skies in the backyard gardens of mutual friends. I had been invited to play a house concert and traveled from rural Northern California. Wendy arrived from New York City, where she lived at the time. I remember my first impression. A gentle strength, a quiet service to the present moment, no fanfare. I remember talking to people after my concert and noticing her moving my guitar out of harm's way, quietly. And her beauty. I remember her elegant, natural beauty. The next morning we sat together and played Bonnie Raitt's cover of Too Long at the Fair. Although we came at it from two different approaches on the guitar, it was a perfect blend. Our first moment of deep connection. Later after breakfast, legend has it that I looked out the kitchen window toward the garden where Wendy stood next to the wild yet cultivated blooms of summer, and I said, man, I wish I could meet someone like her that wanted to be with a woman like me. Well, the angels must have been smiling down on us. 2 years later, as Wendy described it, I packed up my country overalls and mud boots and moved to the wilds of Jersey City to start our shared life together. The idea was 2 years together on the East Coast, and then 2 years in California, and then decide where to plant ourselves. California became our permanent home. It was in those early days that I gained 2 brothers, and Wendy gained 3 sisters to add to our growing family. Our parents were so deeply aligned and engaged beautifully with each other. They were beloved nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles, a stepdaughter and a granddaughter that added to the blend. We were truly blessed. Through the 28 years together, we cultivated our love and commitment with a practice of communication, forgiveness. I gave her lots of opportunity there. Music, and a mutual love for our shared experience. In Wendy, I saw what it meant to be a loving, giving presence in the world. In the years we were together, she developed practices in yoga and mindfulness meditation, all the while writing poetry and songs, deep and resonant. Her creativity was stunning, her mind brilliant, her sense of humor unparalleled, unique and spontaneous, and that laugh, full belly and contagious. Sometimes she really cracked herself up. And her gorgeous voice, pure and exact. Such profound gifts she shared with us. Wendy always chose love and connection as her path forward, and graced those of us lucky enough to be in her orbit with full-hearted support for becoming our best selves, cheering us on every step of the way. And she herself continued to grow into an even more authentic version of herself with each passing year. A verdant garden in bloom. It is not lost on me how fortunate I am that Wendy chose me as her beloved to travel beside her through this miraculous journey of marriage and life. It was such an honor to be her partner, and in her last months of life to stand beside her as she navigated with such dignity and genuine gratitude her final days. She was and is glorious. and the light she brought to us will continue to shine out into this world way beyond time and space. Wendy, my North Star, my compass, always.
Good morning, everyone. We're Nancy and Steve Beckerman.
And that's Joel.
Our oldest son. We welcome you this morning. Many parents feel their child is special. And judging from the turnout we see today, there are many people here who feel, as we do, that Wendy was very special. So we thank you all for being here and helping us remember Wendy and celebrate her today and honor her. You can see Wendy doesn't get her height from me.
So we have 3 children, Joel, Ken, and Wendy. You've already met Joel. Ken is here as well. We have such beautiful, wonderful children. We love them so much, and they love us. And Nancy and I never imagined that we would ever be at a memorial service for them as beautiful children. And as you can imagine, it's been heartbreaking. But we're buoyed by Wendy's spirit, in memory of Wendy. We all know that Wendy was a talented and loving woman who created and manifested her vision of her life every day. She lived spiritually, lovingly, caringly. She was a wonderful poet and songwriter, musician, performer. She was a devoted teacher of yoga and mindfulness and meditation, as many of you know, your first-hand experience. She loved teaching. She loved the people she taught, and she felt their love in return. And we thank you all for that. Everyone who knew Wendy and cared about her knew that she was principled, loving, and authentic. She taught what she lived, and she lived what she taught. Last fall, when we learned that Wendy had had a serious recurrence of cancer, I told her that I would be willing to give up my life that very day if somehow I knew that she could live a full life because of my giving up my life. And Wendy said to me, "Dad, you don't have to end your life in order for me to live a full life. I've lived a full life." It just took my breath away. Wendy told us that she didn't want us to lose her because she had imagined that she would help Nancy and me navigate our old age. And by the way, we're already in our old age. And help us face the ends of our lives and comfort us. We told Wendy, you've already taught us how to face the end of our life by your example, by your grace and your dignity and your beauty, your willingness to be accepting of reality. One day she said to us, when it looked like the end was near, she said, I guess I'm just going to have to leave this body. We wrote a poem for Wendy, and I'd like to read a little part of it for you. I think it expresses some of our feelings and our wishes, and it might express some of your feelings and wishes as well. Our hearts are both heavy and grateful as we remember our dear Wendy. She was loving and beloved in so many ways. May we possess the wisdom to honor her life by embodying the values she held dear. Love of life, joy, spirituality, and love. May her memory inspire us to live with kindness and compassion, and to support one another with the same presence and love that she practiced throughout her life. May her legacy endure through acts of love and remembrance as we cherish the memories of the moments we shared and the lessons Wendy taught us. Wendy's life has become our inheritance and her ideals that become our challenges. Wendy lives in our hearts as an abiding blessing. We pray that all of us who mourn, and I'm including all of you, will derive strength and comfort from the love and caring of our dear friends and loved ones. And we pray for the eternal peace of our dear Wendy's beautiful soul. Amen.
Hello, everyone. On guitar, Wendy had a solid right hand and interesting ways of voicing chords. Her playing supported and contributed to the success of her songs, but she developed carpal tunnel and couldn't play after around 2019, 2020. She kept writing and tried different ways of communicating. A cappella singing at first, but I think she felt something was missing. So she started playing piano on an iPad, which was a rather clinky solution. So began the progression that led to her last album. Wendy became a good piano player whose chord voicings and sense of rhythm were just as unique and interesting as they've been on guitar. That's because Wendy had her own distinct voice. I don't mean her singing voice, which was clear and unadorned, but her artistic voice. She knew what she wanted to say and how she would say it. Short songs full of concrete details that added up to something authentic and true. Clouds passing by, a phone call, flowers and trees, always flowers and trees. In my crowd, you can't have enough of them. The sound of an old car at the beach. Someone at the door. The moon. The mango moon. For years, Wendy was part of groups whose members aspired to write songs regularly, once a week usually, and present them for feedback. She finished something most weeks, but was willing to not finish, and still showed up. If she played what she had, it would have been fine, and possibly it would have been great. But it wasn't where she wanted it to be, and that was okay with her. Not ideal. I don't get the sense that she was happy about it, but acceptable. She wrestled with concepts and lines. She cared about conjunctions. Wendy was not perfect, but she had an aesthetic and trusted it. Is it heretical to say Wendy Beckerman, a highly evolved and always intentional person, presented verses with insufficient clarity? Telegraphed a rhyme now and again? Told instead of showed. That was intended to horrify you. Here's where her evolution led her. She was open to input, heard feedback, and incorporated it or not, depending on her particular vision and objectives. Wendy gave as good as she got. Her classic move was to suggest changing the order of your verses. Right, Patrice? There's a victim right there. What if you switched second and third verses? What do you know? It works. She wanted us to avoid repetition of words and repetition of notes. She liked choruses that started higher than the verses to elevate the conversation. More than once, I had to talk to Wendy about her feedback style, which wasn't mean enough. Sometimes you need someone to grab you by the lapels. You could get lost in her compassionate tone and empathetic body language and not even realize she was telling you the third verse didn't rise to the level of the second. Later, you might think, oh, Wendy was telling me to change up the third verse. Once, I counted the words in one of her typically compact songs and wrote to the exact same number. I think the number was 47, but I know for sure that the song I wrote is Party Dress, and it's on my 2016 album, Lost Soul. I recorded a Wendy Beckerman song that I wrote. Many brave souls have tried to write Wendy songs and been handcuffed by having to say so much with so little. Like many of you, I went to Wendy with questions about things that mattered. Should I make a new album? Why bother when it's so expensive and no one cares? Not to make this event even sadder. I could hear her saying, because that's what we do. I'm happy I made that album, and also that she made her 2014 and 2025 albums, since they showcase a mature artist with something of value to say to anyone who's listening. She never had a big audience, never tried to acquire one, but the music is there for anyone who wants it. It's what we do. What I do is listen to her music and think, I can still commune with that voice, with those ideas. There's a line in a song I wrote about Wendy right after her initial diagnosis. I was tempted to ask your advice, but for once, I will leave you alone. Please don't take this as a grandiose, remarks-closing crescendo. Wendy functioned as a practical and moral compass for me, but I didn't actually have to call her all that often for guidance. Finish the song. Follow your instincts. Take a walk. Breathe. We're sad today, but can take comfort in the fact their voice will always be so accessible, so memorable.
For Wendy Pepperman. On the day you had to go, I saw a lilac-breasted roll with its sea green heart burst wild against forever. As your pure spirit rose, half the round world away, a painted bird turned in new sun and lifted. You are winged now, and a shimmering of rare colors. You are here always, and you are gone. Both things must be true. Weave your gold grass nest in the hollow of our hearts. God knows there is room.
Sorry to have my phone here, I'm Megan, but I think I'll lose track of time. So, we're just going to do a short meditation. So, just settle into your bodies and just know where you are right now. And now we're together, feeling the weight of our bodies in our seats. And just bring awareness to what brings us here. To all the love in the room. Settling into your breath. Coming back over and over again, just being aware of what's here right now. Our bodies, the air, the love in the room. Just bring all your attention to Bell. Hearing it to its last sound of it. And may Wendy's example of leading with love, may we all carry that forward today and beyond.
What a gift to be together in this space and to share the many ways that Wendy has nurtured and inspired us. I now invite those who would like to share a memory to step forward to one of the microphones. While Wendy's influence and inspiration were vast, please try to limit your sharing to no more than 5 minutes. I will be gently keeping time, and if I end up coming over to you and placing my hand gently on your shoulder, that means it's time to wrap it up.
I'm Rose. I love many things about Wendy. I am blessed to have called Wendy my friend for many years. And one of the things that comes to mind as I sit here in community with each of you is thinking about the times when we would plan to go for a walk, often with Karen and my wife Rita, and there would be times when you would say, I'm having a really hard time, but I wanted to be here with you anyways. And there's something so powerful about that authenticity and vulnerability, and I guess I just wanted to say, I'm having a really hard time, and I wanted to be here with you all, and I hope we can keep holding each other. Yes.
Wendy's the reason that I can stand here unabashedly, nakedly sad. I met her 16 years ago when she came to my gym and did a mindfulness session. And from that was born a Thursday morning meditation class that lasted through COVID and beyond. And Wendy taught me how to stand with these hard feelings about myself, about my world, and understand that it's okay. And I will carry this angel in my heart and will hopefully spend my life continuing on with that work and honoring her with the basic kindness and beauty that she honored me and imagine everybody else here.
Hi, my name is Nick Haber. I've known Wendy for 40 years. We met at Brandeis when I first went there. And there was a vibrant music scene at Brandeis. So Wendy, Eflin LaSalle, Dan Fallen August, and Dan Socash and Steve August. Were the first people I met who could actually write songs. Made it real that you could do that, and they were so good at it, and I looked up to them to do that. And we became really good friends over the years. one of my favorite memories is after college, we were both trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and we were working at temp jobs and these kind of dreary word processing offices. And so I don't remember, we didn't have cell phones, so I don't remember how we kept in touch, but we had this thing where whenever there was a birthday or celebration at our office and they served cake, we would call each other and say, "Hey Wendy, guess what I'm doing?" And she would just immediately go, "You're having cake?" So I always think of her whenever I eat cake. We went, she wanted to see the Red Sox, so I took her to Fenway Park. And we had a really fun time. Jack Clark hit a home run that looked like it went the furthest I've ever seen it. It hit a billboard on the street, across the street. But then we realized that it was actually a moth that got caught in the camera. And we decided not to tell anybody. And then, we ended up moving to New York, separately, but, together. And I got caught up in the fast folk scene, met Bob and Tim there, and really learned how to write music. And I would go to those workshops at Jack Hardy's house. And for me, I knew I'd finally written a song that was good, because Wendy wasn't just kind, she said it was a good song. And so, it's, everybody knows the way life is, and that you're really close to somebody for a long time, and then you move in different directions, but she's always been in my heart, and always will be. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul, and I am a member of Wendy's Friday meditation group that she hosted in Genoa at the library. She gave freely to her community. It's just the type of person that she was. She is my teacher. I say she is my teacher because she was speaking to me as I was driving up this hill, and she said, "Don't make an ass of yourself when you go." Pardon my language. She is my teacher and will always be my teacher. I have her on my cell phone, recordings of every one of our sessions, which she gave to us free again and empowered the 25 or so people that came every weekend, because something she did, especially during COVID, because we couldn't meet. They wouldn't allow us to go to the library and meet because, well, obviously. And we had it online. And that was some of the really challenging times of our lives, but she empowered us. In fact, she would allow individuals to lead the group that had no experience at all. And it was wonderful. That feeling that you got from her, giving you that gift. When she would go back east, I would lead the group in Pinole. I have an extensive amount of these teachers, working for Spirit Rock, Jack Cornfield, setting his up, and a couple other really famous teachers. And the first time I met her Friday at the meditation group, I introduced myself and I told her this resume, and she looked at me. She did this, what I call the Wendy pause, collecting her thoughts. She said, "That's good. At least you don't know everything. So welcome to the group." And I just, every time I have to pause like that, I think of her. And it's so nice to share this day with you.
Wendy was a gift from the universe to me. I met her in 2012 at Lakebridge Athletic Club, where she was my yoga teacher. And then that same year, I had a diagnosis of early stage breast cancer. And my stress was like absolutely out of control. I considered myself a stress addict. And fortuitously, one day after the yoga class, I said to Wendy, do you know any meditation classes I could take? And she said, just so happens next week I'm teaching a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. And I immediately signed up, and it totally changed my life. She helped me. I was so concerned about living in the future and rehashing the past, and Wendy helped me anchor more in the present and live my life a much fuller and richer life as a result. I consider Wendy my guru because she's taught me so much. She was a masterful in her art of mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. And she imparted in me so much wisdom and lessons of life that I've taken since that time and has really made my life so much better. She impacted it in an incredible way. One of those people, one of the very major people in my life that made that kind of impact. I'm so grateful for Wendy, for what she gave to me, what she gave to the world. I've taken her mindfulness class several times and taken a couple of her retreats, some of her retreats, and her voice retreat. They were all incredible experiences, and I thank the universe for bringing us Wendy Beckerman, for her love and her teaching and for being. So, thank you. I honor Wendy with the highest of honor. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yoga is represented here, and I wanted to just share that Wendy kept learning, and when she was learning, she would pass on the information willingly to us in yoga. And so you were benefited and enthralled by doing each session was not the same, although she would always put in a downward facing dog and cobra, which I hated. But each lesson was very different. You knew you would not be bored. And after, a 45-minute downward facing dog and cobras and different things, you had corpse pose at the end, and some of us would actually go to sleep. This would turn out the light. It was wonderful. So I just think for the family to know that even in teaching, it was a gift that she gave us because she shared herself totally with us. Thank you.
I hadn't known Wendy as long or as deeply as many folks here, but I met her through the songwriting group. Called me and told me to go, and I went, and it was a remarkable group. And she started, retreats held every month, and that group really changed my life. I was in a pretty dark place, and she started every session with a moment of meditation and hearing the meditation notes, and it was really special. And I was very impatient with that 1 minute that we spent before our briefing session initially, and really appreciate it. And just we did a show once together that was really very special too. But I got up here. I'm not someone who believes in God and or afterlife or anything, but I do believe we look at the world and see a lot of stuff, but beneath that is vibration, and that sound, and the way we bring sound into the world continues. And when Bob said that about being able to hear Wendy's voice forever, I hope you all continue to listen to it forever, and I know that voice will continue on.
Hi, Wendy was an amazing songwriter, and just a hint for those of you who don't have it on Insight Meditation Timer, MD, she is still, if you want to do the mindfulness-based stress reduction, it's on there. But the memory I want to share with you is Karen and Wendy came to my home, to our home, to do a fundraiser for a solar organization that I had started. And I didn't bring that many people to the house party. It was all Karen and Wendy's people. And I was super embarrassed. And Wendy had her guitar by the fireplace, and she was leaning over, putting it away, and I just went up to kind of be like, wow, that was amazing, thank you. And she just turned to me and she said, you manifest things.
Two things I shared with Wendy. One is birthday, and the other is that we spent time on the east end of Long Island. And very early on, I learned from Wendy that she could think out loud without making a noise. She would be there and kind of like you'd see an idea enter one side of her head and another idea enter together. And so you'd see her eyes kind of like, and then the eyebrows would shock up and she'd go, ah! And one time she said, you know, Subaru, spell it backwards, you are a bus.
That's a hard act to follow. I had a niece who once asked my mother, was there a person in your life that you met or an event that you felt like changed the trajectory of the rest of your life? And she expected my mother to say, oh, meeting my husband, you know. And instead, she said, meeting the person who would become my aunt, whose brother would marry my mother. And I was thinking about that. I have thought about this actually many times. That Wendy's that person for me, has been. And I know there's a lot of people that would, there's probably so many people that would get up here and say the same thing, which is about the impact that she had on their life. And I met Wendy in at Kaiser. We were going into the elevator at the same time because I was taking my first ever yoga class. And she stepped into the elevator and we said hello to each other and she just said, "Are you going to the yoga class?" And I said, "In fact, I am." And I thought, now where do I know her from? And I had never met her before, but there was this sense of knowing. And I think it was because when you were with Wendy and she looked at you, or she talked to you, it was like you were the only person in the world. And she would remember the last thing that you may have said that had been on your mind, and she would say, "How's your mother doing?" Or "How does your ankle feel?" And then I learned about her songwriting, and I learned that she hosted this songwriting circle, and I remember she said, I was still in yoga class, and she said, I don't usually like to invite my students into my home, but I'm going to make an exception. And I had the great pleasure of going to her house, or Patrice's house once a month for many years before COVID. And like many of you, I just feel like it's a crime that this person who's so healthy and did all these things right, that is not here with us. But I'm also reminded of how she was and continues to still be, which is to say, hey, I am still here with you. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for Karen. And for such a beautiful, beautiful gathering.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything because I don't feel like I have much new to say, but a couple things I wanted to say again. I'm Kwame. I was part of the songwriting thing a number of years ago. The first was just how funny she was, and is, and how her songs were not, every once in a while there'd be some humor, but they were so clear and direct and communicated. And then there was this headroom of just ridiculous humor that just I loved so much. And it was as much fun to hang out with her at these things and have just the sense of that humor and that fun, always waiting to come in. Only other thing I wanted to say is that a while ago I developed a thing where I can, when I chant, I'm a Buddhist, when I think about, when I open up my brain, I started with my uncle a few years ago, and I started just, when he passed, I started to just get a sense of what was going on with him at that point. He's gone, of course, and this is completely my imagination, but I just said, I'm going to trust this because it helped me. And while we were meditating, Wendy was, in some sense here, but she had her eyes closed, as usually people do when they're dead. But she has the biggest smile on her face. And I just wanted to share that, and just how much I loved her presence in the world.
Thank you for raising such a beautiful soul for all of us to share. Her light shines on through the fostering of her youth that you brought her up in, to be a glorious being that we get to share. Wendy's energy, her life, her voice, her song, her laughter had such a resonating magic to it. It's as if she could pause and look in the moment, connect with her spirit, and find a way for her human form to translate everything she wanted to share and say. It was captivating our hearts. It wasn't just her sound, but it was her breath of life between her sounds that connected us. And I know she would tell us, reach your soul. You don't need to have a role. Just shine on and be who you are.
My name is Jade, and I moved up here from the Central Coast in 2019 for a few months after my mom had passed and I was grieving. And I'd had several health issues and car accidents, and I had the amazing blessing to meet Wendy. And I think the first time I met her was at a meditation, and I couldn't believe it was free because it had yoga and it had meditation, it had just the stress reduction I needed. Wendy introduced me, my mom was into yoga, so I did yoga from a small age, but Wendy introduced me to a type of mindfulness that I had never experienced before. And then I found out she sang. And I had moved back to the Central Coast during COVID, but I was filled with a lot of fear and anxiety. And so being able to connect with Wendy through Zoom courses and keep in touch was life-saving for me, honestly. And one of the things that she did was hold a yoga session at one of my favorite places, which was Kennedy Grove, because of the nature and the peacefulness that came with that. And I just feel so honored to have had her in my life. And one of the things she taught me was about Mary Oliver's poems. And I can't believe I didn't know that before, but this one was one that came up that I thought, oh, it's perfect for her. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing that your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. Wendy, we're not actually going to let you go. I will surrender to the flow like you taught me. I will try, but I will see you again in heaven someday.
I feel very humbled and awed to be here. It's good. That just means a lot. My name is Rita. I was one of Wendy's yoga students for many, many years at Lakeridge and then online through COVID and also graduation. And you know, I've never met anyone like Wendy, and I'm sure many of us would say this. But someone who also was raised in New York and Jewish. I kept being amazed when I would talk to her. Given that background, how can she be so completely accepting and I was trying to be funny. It was just like, wow, you can be that and you can be here in this kind of presence. You know, Wendy, and I can't use the past tense yet, but the most remarkable person, who her acceptance and her, you know, whether we were able to push ourselves in the yoga or just move into what was easier, her gentle yoga. Whatever it was fine. I've never experienced that kind of complete acceptance and presence. And the other thing I need to share is that for many, Wendy knew that I was supporting and then caregiving of my mom. And it happened to be in Rossmore, right near here, which I thought was quite good. And I would be there sometimes trying to do a yoga class with her online. And I would tell, while my mom was there, and I'd say, I need to do this class with Wendy, so let me do this. Mom would always call me in the middle of the class. That's not what you do in yoga. But Wendy, when I reached points of I didn't know what to do, the biggest blessing of all was that if I reached a point where either, physically I couldn't move some tight place or spot, or I was kind of beside myself in all of the caregiving for many years, she was a person I could tell, and she would have some suggestion that would open other possibilities. She was the most open, fluid thinker, and it was usually something like, as you say, out of the box, that was very useful, and actually, in the end, too, she shared some information with me that helped me grace the end of my mother's life, which I'll tell you another time, but it was absolutely amazing. So I'm enormously grateful, and it means a lot to me with everyone who Wendy touched and loved, and, her essence, and final comment, that presence of 100% acceptance where you are, and do your best, and think outside of possibilities, I hope stays with all of us.
Wendy was my meditation teacher for 15 years. And it did not take me long to start thinking of her and referring to her and telling her that she was my teacher with a capital T, who, like others here, made the single biggest impact on my life of anyone I've ever known. And she helped me to uncover my truth with a capital T. So those are things that are very Wendy related in my mind. And I just want to offer to those of you here who are her students who may not have been as familiar with her music. I bought her 2025 CD. I've been sort of listening to it on loop for the last few weeks. I now know all the words. It's a powerful and beautiful album. Some of the songs are, just more of the teaching, that she's been for me and for so many of us. But it also, like has already been said, her voice, I get to sing with her in the car, and her voice is there. So I really encourage those of you who haven't had that to think. It's good to be here.
My name is Jenny, and I've met Wendy many times and Karen, but when I really bonded with Wendy was in caring for her cat Valentine. And I feel like Valentine needs to be brought into the room. I feel like they have such a special...
It's Valentine's birthday today.
Nice. Yeah, I felt like Valentine had to be here too. Because they had such a special relationship. And it was really quite an honor for Dawn and me to house sit for them and play with Valentine. She had a little Valentine in her rear. and that's her name. And then to be in Karen's beautiful garden, and to such a peaceful, meditative beauty. I mean, Wendy created beauty. She really did, in many ways. And but I just want you to have an image of Valentine. And Patrice. I want to bring two images into the room too. So for a number of years, as you've heard, Wendy and I got to co-host songwriting with any number of big hearts, very, very big hearts. So the evening would begin with food. I understand that on the East Coast, food was a pot of spaghetti, and then you get down to it. Shut up and sing. Ours is a little softer than that. Being California, we needed to take into consideration whether there was gluten and whether there was dairy. Whether there were onions or mushrooms or nightshades. It's a little complicated sometimes. I arrived at Wendy and Karen's house one evening early to just give a hand with setting up, and Wendy was in a frenzy. The lentils, she had opened the top of the pressure cooker on the lentils. Too soon. And the kitchen was adorned. And 12 people were coming for dinner. So there was this frantic business of, my job obviously was cleaning the ceiling. And the two of us taking the remnants of the lentils and putting them in a different pot that would look suitable to be served from. And quickly, I think there was, I don't know if there was some other addition, there was maybe instant rice or something that was necessary to sort of fill this out. But part of that memory, apart from the lentils all over the ceiling, was Wendy's wide open, belting laugh, because it was so hysterical, in both meanings of the word hysterical. It was a pretty good meaning that night too. The other image that I just want to bring into the room, we've already had the experience of this, but one of the most magnificent parts of Wendy's music is its potential for harmony. Thank you. And I know one of my greatest wishes was that I could sing harmony with her. We got to do that. We got to do that both in a concert that featured 4 women songwriters. And we sang for and with each other. And when the brunette and I went to the hospital to play for her, I was just playing tunes in her room to sort of bring the energy down, because it was a little freaky, all told. And she said, let's sing. Let's sing. And we took one of those songs and harmonized together. I just really want you to hold that, the way of how we move together, how we breathe together, whether we're making yoga or making lentils or making whatever we're making, songs. That our togetherness is also an honor of her, a sweetness and a beauty.
Let's have one more remembrance, and then we'll move to the next piece of music.
Well, I was really terrified to get up here, but I wanted to talk about how Wendy was such an important part of her life. I started meditating with her at the Pinole Library about 13 years ago. And for years, she told me about the retreat that she and Ms. Taylor did. And for years I wanted to go, but for years I was just too terrified, thinking, you can't sing, but I had such a desire to sing. And after about 3 years of talking to her about it and not being too afraid to go, she said, just come, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to speak, just come. And so I did it. And one of the first exercises with Louise Taylor was, she would sing a part, and then I did, and then you'd sing, you'd sing, and then she'd come up, and she'd say, I make a suggestion, and then I kind of belted out a song, and everybody clapped, and it was just like, then music came into my life. That's what I would say. Music came back into my life. And then I did sing a song. Each could sing, a song group later, a couple days later. And afterwards, Louise and Wendy sat down next to me and asked me how that went. It was so exciting. And then I said, but I'm never doing it again. And then when we were leaving, I went into the restroom and I was singing in the restroom. And then when I came out, Wendy was standing there and she said, well, I've heard about singing in the shower, but I had not heard about it. I want to express how gentle she was and how much she encouraged me and gave me the courage to do that. And I thought, I saw part of her, I didn't see in meditation because it wasn't part of it, but how much fun she was and how funny she was and the way that she and Louise worked together. It was just so extraordinary. But the kindness to have people reach for something that they were terrified to do. So that's what I wanted to say.
If you never hear from me again, if my body disappears, if I ever care for you, for me, I will be everywhere. You know I'll be cheering you on, just like I always used to. When you hear the bird song mooning, when you hear the bird song mooning, launch a dream where the river ends, watch it whirling all around, dancing through the eddies
influences that came to mind for me when I thought of Wendy is the 14th century mystic Julian of Norwich, who was one of the first women to write in English. And I heard or read or learned recently that she was in great pain at the end of her life and taught herself or made up a body prayer. So I'm going to invite you to involve yourself in this prayer. It starts with your hands at your waist, cupped like this as we await. And then we reach up to heaven and we say, allow. Allow. And then we bring our hands to our heart and say, accept. Accept. And then we outstretch our hands one more time and say, attend. Attend. So, await. Await. Allow. Allow. Accept. Accept. Attend. Attend. She wrote, Julian of Norwich, all will be well, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. May Wendy's life continue to help us all let the light in and enjoy the reception after the service next door. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those of you online, you can continue to chat.
Blessings all.